Okay, so today, again, we're focused on the mind pillar. And the session is going to be focused on creating performance routines to enhance athlete and team performance. The mind pillar is one of USA Volleyball's 5 developmental pillars in their model. So the mind pillar, we are focusing on training our minds to maximize our performance. And here's an outline of the content I'm going to be going over today. The difference between superstition, rituals, and routines. Those are so often confused and misused, the language around that. I'll define what a routine is. We'll go over the benefits of having a routine and the difference between pre-performance routines, during performance routines, and post-performance routines. And then what I like to call ABC routines. We'll briefly cover what an individualized zone of optimal functioning is for athletes and how to create one. And then we'll go over some key takeaways for today. So I want to start by talking about superstitions. In the world of sport, it is really important to distinguish the difference between routines, rituals, and superstitions because these terms often get misused. So superstitions are false beliefs that athletes hold which ultimately have no impact on the outcome of their performance or of the game, of their sport. So superstitions are typically created by athletes from happenstance, instilling a belief of like a cause and effect type of thinking, which ultimately has no bearing on the result. Examples of superstition can include, for example, we are driving to an away game before you get to the gym, hearing a certain song on the radio. That might be an example of superstition. Another one might be the one that's pictured here, the old saying, don't step on a crackle or break your mother's back. That's what I mean by superstition. What we really want to unpack for the athletes is, do you believe your performance is mostly unpredictable and largely attributed to luck or unknown forces? That's what we're trying to get the athlete to deconstruct by addressing superstitious beliefs. So superstitions can be fun and funny for teams, but the athletes need to recognize that they are not indications of success or failure. Superstitions are really just up to chance or magic. So I'm not saying that we need to ban all superstitions. All I'm saying is we need to help athletes recognize exactly what superstition is, and that actually it does not have an impact on their performance, and that it is very different than having a routine. All right, so what are rituals? We've gone over superstitions, so what are rituals? Rituals are rigid, they lack flexibility, and again, they have no direct impact on performance. So they are a set of behaviors done in a fixed sequence or a specific order. So, for example, the picture shown here, the athlete must put on their left sock before they put on their right sock. All right, we see this probably a lot more in baseball, but it can happen in volleyball too. Rituals are not flexible, and they might even be counterproductive to the athlete or the team. So if an athlete is unable to complete the ritual exactly as prescribed, they might feel unfocused or unprepared. It might impact their confidence negatively if they're not able to perform it, if anything disrupts the ritual, which is bound to happen at some point, right? So rituals do not have a scientifically supported link to improving performance, as they're essentially just giving power to something that really has no power. Okay, so hopefully now I've been able to debunk superstitions and rituals, and now let's get into what is a routine, since these are often confused. So a routine is a sequence of task-relevant thoughts and actions an athlete systematically engages in prior to performance of a self-paced sports skill. There's another definition. Routines are repetitive and they are consistent, much like rituals, but the difference here is that they are also flexible in the face of obstacles based upon the environment and the situation. So routines have been shown, scientifically proven to be able, there's a lot of research that demonstrates that routines can help athletes achieve a state of performance readiness by increasing their feelings of self-efficacy and confidence and control, and also by helping athletes improve their concentration before and during competition. So what is a routine example? I will go over several, and we'll actually create one together for a volleyball match. But here we go. I couldn't help myself, just given the timing of this recording. Pictured here, Caitlin Clark, her free throw shooting routine. Routines are a sequence of task-related actions or thoughts, right? Repetitive, consistent, and flexible. Routines are a way of cognitive and behavioral cueing in preparation for performance. So what we're really doing here is we're signaling your mind and your body that it is time to practice, or train, or perform, compete. So routines should be individually created, they should be consistently followed, and they should be designed individually to put you in control of your performance. They can be shortened, they can be elongated as needed, depending on the situation, the environment. But we need to recognize that what ultimately what a routine is going to act as an automated buffer to protect against distraction. So here in this photo, we have the free throw routine, the sort of going through the motions of shooting the free throw as a way of sort of dial in the focus, block out the distractions, get the both the energy and the emotional state to the level that is optimal for that athlete. Okay, so what are the benefits of routines? The first one is increasing feelings of performance readiness. All right, so preparing an athlete to compete. This is going to be a pre-performance routine, preparing an athlete to compete, to play the game. Routines are going to help athletes start out of the gate stronger. Like I said, it's a way of cueing your mind and body that it's time to compete. So if you have athletes that are slow starters, helping them develop a customized routine is going to be really helpful for them. Okay, so we're helping them get ready to perform the second they step on the court. Another benefit of a routine is going to be increasing self-confidence. Routines can serve to increase an athlete's confidence. It's a reminder for athletes to trust their training. By going through the same routine in practice that they do in preparation for a game or a match or a tournament, it's going to be a useful reminder to the athlete that you have done this 1,000 times, right? It's a cue to help the reminder to trust your training. We have, it's a phrase that is often used, trust your training, but how do we trust our training? Well, implementing a routine can be a way of helping athletes to trust their training. Let's see, the next one here is increasing the sense of control. I cannot understate the importance of helping an athlete increase their sense of control. When so many things in the world feel out of control, when so many things in the game feel out of control, oftentimes, especially in a game like volleyball, it's just like stop, start, stop, start. We have these moments that an athlete can regroup, recenter, point reset, and take control, and that's what a routine does. So routines give athletes a sense of control. They can control the timing, they can control the frequency, the routine can help change the emotional state of the athlete and also the energy level of the athlete. for either before, during, or after competition. So it's a really big, important one. Also, routines help, like I already alluded to in the free throw shot, they help improve concentration, all right, by focusing on the correct things. So for many athletes, especially at the club level, at the college level, for many athletes under pressure, the problem is not that they are not focusing. It's not that they're not concentrating. It's that they're concentrating on the wrong things. So I can't tell you how many times I've heard coaches yell or parents yell, focus, or yelling from the sidelines, telling the athlete to just focus in between points. And it's not that they're not focusing. It's that their focus is really broad and external. So they're focusing on who's in the stands. Is there a college scout? Did their parent come? Is their parent at the game yet? Did they see the last play? What is my teammate doing? How are they feeling? What's my assistant or a coach doing? Or maybe across the net thinking about a particular opponent. So it's not that they're not focused. It's just that there's so much stimuli that we have to teach athletes exactly what they should be focused on in any given moment. So routine can help them dial in that focus on exactly what they should be focusing on. And then let's see here. The last one is going to be increase the sense of familiar in a different environment. So this one really is when we're talking about playing on the road. So for club tournaments, they're always on the road, right? For college or higher level, you have home games or away games, or for high school, you have home games and away games. There certainly is a home advantage, right? An advantage to playing at home. You know what to expect. You're playing you're competing where you practice, and away games are going to be different. So routines are especially important when we're on the road. And this is one of the ways that we can help reduce the disadvantage of playing on the road. All right, by helping an athlete, even though they're playing in a different gym, in a different environment, different sounds, maybe different, flooring, height of the ceiling, all of those factors, we can help them sort of narrow in that focus and take control. All right. So one of the things about teaching routines is I want to make sure that coaches are aware of this, that you have to expect resistance at first, all right? Routines are generally not people's most favorite things to do until they become their favorite things to do. So common resistance that I often hear from athletes is it slows me down, right? Well, that is exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to slow the athlete down. If that is something that they need to do. And if another common form of resistance might be, I like being flexible in case things change. And this one really alludes to the maybe the athlete is confusing what a ritual is versus a routine. And that's why that is so important, that piece of reminding the athlete that actually creating a routine is going to help you be more flexible. That's exactly why we do it, so that you can be flexible. So teaching the athlete that routines are flexible. And then another common form of resistance is, or something that I would hear from athletes is, I used to do it and it was helpful, but then I just stopped and I'm not sure why. And oftentimes what happens is the athlete starts doing the routine, it helps them, they start to feel more confidence, and then they stop doing the routine because they're feeling good. They don't feel like they need it anymore. And then the play starts to decrease again. And so that's where we want to go in and remind athletes, what did you do before that you aren't doing now? And helping athletes remember how helpful that actually was, to encourage them to pick up the routine again. So a couple of quotes from some athletes about the importance of routines. Here we have Tiger Woods. I have a pre-shot routine for every shot, but none is more important than when I have a big drive in a pressure situation. Not only does my pre-shot routine allow me to focus on the task at hand, but it also keeps me in my natural rhythm. And then here we have Rafael Nadal. It's a way of ordering my surroundings to the order I seek in my head. And this, I think, really speaks to, playing in those environments which are new and different, uncomfortable, playing on the road, creating that sense of control and that sense of order for the athlete. All right, so now we're going to get into the 3 types of routines, and we're going to spend the most time today on pre-competition routines. So routines can be broken down into 3 distinct categories: before competition or pre-competition, that'd be like pre-game, during competition, which would be during the match, and then post-competition or post-performance, which would be after the match. So pre-performance, which is also referred to as pre-competition, are actions taken prior to the start of a tournament or prior to the start of a game, to help prepare the athlete for readiness, psychological readiness. We need to remember that to achieve optimal performance in competition, athletes should maintain consistent pre-competition routines regardless of wherever they're playing, regardless of how much pressure is on the match, on the game, on the tournament. All right. Especially when we're traveling on the road, competing in a new environment, there's temptation for athletes to change their strategies, to change the routines for warm-up, to change their eating and sleeping and socializing habits before a big event. That's really common, and sometimes we can't control all of that. But it's important to recognize the things that we can control and sort of hack that into a pre-competition routine. So events and tournaments that require travel, which, most, especially club volleyball tournaments do, and certainly in college, you're seeing it. We need to, and internationally is going to be especially important if they're ever getting to do that. Routines are a way to help athletes. Really, preparing a routine is going to really help them to contemplate about what is it that they miss from when they're competing away from home. And our goal with the routine is to actually minimize the differences from how an athlete prepares from home and away. Okay, so making it as consistent and comfortable as possible to help the athlete prepare. And so the way we do that is we're going to focus on both the physical needs and the mental needs of the routine. Okay, so physical needs is what we have here on the left, the red box on the left. These are things, the competition start time is going to be out of the athlete's control, of course. Warm-up is obviously going to be, is going to be dependent on the competition start time. I included the physical training room needs of an athlete. That's mostly for college. I recognize for a club that's not always possible, but there might be some sort of medical preparation that need, like, whether it's taping your ankles or, putting braces on, that type of thing, allowing time for that, or any sort of extra stretching or rehab that needs to happen before games. And then these last 2 are really critical, and they often, I think especially the last one, can get overlooked, especially on the road. So the timing of the meals, and I should also add the content of the meals. So what you're eating, and the timing that you're having your meals and snacks, and then also the amount of sleep that you're getting. So those are going to be all the, those are going to be examples of the physical needs that are going to be included in a pre-performance routine. And that's pretty standard. Oftentimes with athletes, you're doing it whether you realize it or not. You already have that. It's the blue box, the mental needs of the athletes, that are often getting sort of overlooked. And those are not often included, or sometimes we just, the mental needs are often the things that get cut when you don't have enough time to prepare, right? When things go wrong, if the bus breaks down or that type of thing. So we want to focus on what are the mental needs of an athlete. What can we add to an athlete's pre-competition routine to prepare their athlete? So the first one, mindfulness. This is going to be the athlete should remain still, pay attention to the pace of their breathing, recognizing where their mind is at. So this may include observation of both negative and positive self-talk. So an assessment of one's feelings towards playing, towards their teammates, towards their coach. And it could also include like a body scan, checking in if the athlete is holding any tension in any particular place, especially before a big match. There might be extra tension in the jaw, the neck, and the shoulders. that type of thing. So if we can even do just a little bit of a mindfulness, self-awareness assessment, even if it's just a minute, and assess that there might be some extra tightness that we can address before they get started. Next one is going to be strategy review. So just reviewing the game strategy. This would be like reviewing the offensive game plan in one's mind and just like, or maybe thinking about the scouting report. I'm just going to pause for 1 second. Excuse me. Okay. Imagery is another one that we can add to a pre-competition routine. So outcome imagery, signature play imagery, or perfect technique imagery. You can go back and look at some of the imagery session that I did previously. There's different types of imagery, and athletes can do it they can do it right before their game. They can do it the night before their game, whatever is going to be best for them, but including some sense of imagery is going to be a really helpful thing to add to a pre-competition routine. A belief cue. So belief cue can either be a word or a phrase that activates the player's mind to feel the desired state, like the way that they want to feel when they step on the court, the way they want to feel when the server's serving or when they're swinging the ball. So a common example of a belief cue is a word or a phrase like "trust your training" is a great one for volleyball. Or reach and snap, whatever it is something to remind athletes to trust themselves and their teammates. That sort of focuses their attention not on feeling insecure or the pressure or the the consequences of the outcome, but really focusing in on the present moment and what they need to do right now. And then the last one is one that I feel like is really often overlooked: connecting to purpose. Really help athletes connect to their purpose prior to competition can be a huge perspective shift for them, and it can really help motivate them. So reminding athletes, why are you doing this? Why do you train so hard? Why do you put yourself through this much pressure? Helping them connect. Oftentimes the responses that you're going to get from athletes are going to be, it's getting to have friendships and be connected to a team, a sense of identity of being on the team, the joy of playing. Those types of things are oftentimes the one of the primary drivers for athletes. And then as pressure builds, as scholarships loom, as outcome of tournaments start to as the pressure builds, that gets lost. And so helping athletes refocus on really connecting to their purpose and the value that they find in play can be really, really helpful for taking the pressure off and helping them prepare. Okay, ABC routine. So like I said, we're going to focus a lot on the pre-performance routines, and then we'll get back to the during performance and post-performance. But ABC routines encourage athletes to strive for routine comfort and prepare for flexibility when things do not go as planned. So A routines are going to be refer to the comfortable and familiar routines that athletes are going to do in their regular home competition gym. All right. So if everything was perfect and the athlete got to choose exactly how the day went and knew exactly what to expect, that's going to be your A routine. Your B routine is also known as like routines for travel, right? So this is going to include an adjusted version of your A routine that is really designed for competing on the road. So for example, maybe you can't get your exact pregame meal that you love or your Starbucks or whatever it is that athletes need or want before their game. We're going to adjust, but we're going to focus on what are the things that you can control and that can make your on the road preparation feel as much like your at home preparation as possible. And then the third one, and this is again the one that probably gets most often overlooked, is these are routines that athletes use to prepare for when things go wrong. So we actually want to encourage athletes to have a routine plan for when things go wrong. So for example, and this happens all the time, you're driving to a game and then maybe the bus breaks down or there's traffic or something, the power goes out in the gym, whatever it is. We've all had things where it's just not going as you expect it to go, and therefore you have a reduced amount of time to prepare. So what are you going to cut? If we have a plan that we've already prepared, the athlete does not need to be so thrown off by things going wrong, because they already know, okay, well, I'm going to cut this, this, and this, and I'm just going to shorten my imagery, and I'm going to shorten this, maybe my breathing or whatever it is, and be ready to go. And it's okay. And we don't have that sort of major consequence of not being able to go through the entire pre-competition routine. So I really encourage folks, ABC routines, think about it. It's really helpful. Oftentimes we are just thinking about A routines. So really, really helpful. Okay, so how do we identify what's going to be in the pre-performance routine? This is really, really important. So one way to do that is to, this is a lot of the work I do with athletes, is helping athletes identify the difference in the preparation between their best and their worst performances. So it could be a simple activity of sitting down with the athletes, 2 sheets of paper, and think about the best performance you ever had and think about the worst performance you ever had, and then just answer these series of questions. What did you do the night before is usually a great place to start. How much sleep did you get? What type of sleep did you get? Did you get too much sleep? Did you not get enough sleep? What was your energy level like leading up to the game or to the tournament? How did you feel in the morning or in between games if you have multiple games? How focused were you throughout the day? So did the athlete have trouble focusing? Were they really distracted? If they were really distracted, identify what were the things that were distracted. Was there someone at the tournament that day? Were they on their phones more often than normal? Was there something that came up on someone dropped a comment on their social media feed that really had them consumed? Or was there some things going on interrelationally within the team? What emotions did you feel before and during the game? So these are all things that we want to sort of dial into. We want to be able to identify what emotions they want to feel before and during the game. What were you thinking about before and during the game? So oftentimes with club athletes, we're talking about college recruiting, right? Maybe there's a scout in the stands, or maybe there's someone came to the game that had you distracted, something like that. Okay, so these are examples of questions that you can use to help athletes identify their best and worst performances. And really what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a picture, a history, so that we start to recognize patterns, and then we're going to continue to tweak the routine to help them replicate the preparation for their best performance. Okay, so individualized zone of optimal functioning is a model to help athletes identify their optimal energy profile. I'm going to do a very brief overview of this, but it's beyond the scope of this presentation to dive super deep into it. I could do an entire presentation just on this model, but I want to go over it, and I want to make sure that everyone is at least aware of it and understands how you can maybe use it or elements of it to help prepare your team. So the individualized zone of optimal functioning, which is also referred to as the IZOF, so I'll refer to it as the IZOF from here on out since it's a mouthful. The IZOF can be broken down into 4 of the following emotional states. Okay, we have helpful positive emotions, helpful negative emotions, harmful positive emotions, and harmful negative emotions. And in this context, when I say helpful and harmful, I'm talking about in the context of performance. So I'm not talking about in the context of mental health necessarily. That's going to be completely different. It's important to understand that we're really talking about specifically for performance. Helpful positive emotions. So the pluses are going to be performance enhancing. The minuses are going to be performance inhibiting or impairing. All right, so athletes can actually complete an energy assessment, an emotional assessment, to identify and familiarize themselves with their optimal energy zone and emotional states for performance. So this is again this is going to be a shift away from like good and bad feelings, that like binary thinking around feelings are good or bad. It's and I'm going to bring up the emotion wheel here in a minute again. But oftentimes feelings that are comfortable are perceived as good, and feelings that are uncomfortable are perceived as bad. But that doesn't necessarily align with performance results. And so we need to be aware of that. So one way to identify this is, again, recognizing step one is going to be comparing good versus bad games, recognizing what were the emotions that were present, how did you feel during when you played your best versus when you played your worst, recognizing what are the emotions that were present. And then secondly is going to be identifying the 4 types of emotions at each game. So which ones were helpful positive ones, which ones were helpful negative ones. Like an example of a helpful positive one might be feeling competitive or feeling confident. A helpful negative one might be thought of as anger. Anger often has a really bad reputation emotionally because it doesn't feel comfortable. And yet sometimes in sports, feeling angry can be actually a helpful negative emotion. But we also have to recognize that the level matters. So that the intensity level is going to be really important too. And that is actually the third step. So rating the intensity level of those emotions. And I will, in the next slide, show you a visual of what I'm talking about that could help. See here. So one of the things I really want to make sure I drive home, this is a really important point, is that every athlete has a unique mental and emotional state of optimal functioning in competition. We have to respect people's differences. And so another way to say that would be there is not only one there's more than one right way to compare for competition, because everybody is different. We have introverts and extroverts, and it's really important to recognize that each volleyball player's routine should be unique to them. And we're going to have team routines that we're going to do all together, but then we're also going to have individual routines. And we need to hold space for differences within the individual routines. And that's really important to understand, because oftentimes what happens is everyone is forced into the team routine. And so if and oftentimes if a coach or a team captain or a team leader plays their best when, for example, they might be really loud and fired up before a game, that's how they prepare, is loud music, fired, really aggressive. If that is the way that the coach performed their best, if that's the way the team captain performs their best, and there's a notion that then everybody needs to prepare that way. And if they're not acting that way before their game, then they're not getting ready. They're not, and that's what we actually really want to debunk here. The truth is that some players play their best when they're calm and quiet and focused before a game. And so we need, as coaches, as leaders, as sports psychs, we need to be able to hold space for the different types of preparation styles that athletes have in terms of competition. It was a great insight from the U.S. women's national soccer team. They would actually divide their locker room in preparation for their games, and half of the locker room was the loud space, and then the other half was the quiet space. And they would actually put tape across it, a line dividing the locker room, and so that people's preparation needs were respected. It's important that athletes understand what type of player they are and what they need in order to prepare their best. It's also important that as teammates and as coaches that we understand that about our team members, so that if an athlete who is normally really loud and fired up and aggressive is acting calm and quiet before a game, then we recognize maybe something's wrong, and vice versa. If an athlete is normally really calm and quiet, and they're over on the loud side of the locker room, maybe something's going on, and we need to sort of check in with them or refocus them. So really important to recognize people's differences and try to find that balance within individual and team routine preparation. But I'm not going to spend much time on this slide, but this is a visual image of an IZOF. This is what I was referring to in the last slide, where we have on the bottom, we have all these different emotions. So tired, sluggish, I won't read all of them, but you get a sense of the N negative are going to be the negative emotions that are harmful. Examples of negative emotions that are helpful for at least this particular athlete are going to be tense, attacking, dissatisfied, tense. Those might be negative emotions that are actually performance enhancing. So again, the N is for negative, the P is for positive, and then the plus and minus signs are going to be for performance enhancing or performance inhibiting. So if we're looking at the N plus column, these are going to be negative emotions that are actually performance enhancing. When we move over to the right in the P plus column, these are going to be positive emotions that are performance enhancing. So these are going to be things like, for this athlete, energetic, motivated, confident. Those are positive emotions that are performance enhancing. And then on the far right category, and this is one that I think gets overlooked a lot, is positive emotions that are actually performance inhibiting. So something, at least for this athlete, it's going to be different for every athlete. So easygoing, comfortable, composed. Maybe for this athlete, that this is something that when they were super, super relaxed and easygoing, they did not play their best. This could be different. Again, this could be different for different athletes. So just being aware that this is what we're trying to do is help athletes create a visual and really get to understand themselves. On the far left column, we have intensity. So 0 to 10, and that's going to be the intensity level of those emotions. So helping athletes rate, like, how confident are you, right? Where do you want to be, or how tense are you? Where is that? And oftentimes when I do this with athletes, one of the things that athletes realize is that one that often comes up is going to be anxious or nervous. And I don't see it on here, but the anxious and nervousness, that would be a negative emotion that, again, it's oftentimes perceived as something that could be really performance inhibiting. But when athletes start to recognize and reflect back on their past performances and realize, oh, when I played my absolute best match ever, I was really nervous before. And that's really valuable information for an athlete to understand about themselves, that they don't have to freak out and be scared when they start to feel nervous before a big game. It's actually their body's way of preparing them for competition and maybe even their best performance yet. So again, this is a emotion wheel. I know I've shared it in the past, and I'm just bringing it up again. I really encourage folks to use this. You can just Google emotion wheel or feeling wheel. You can buy little cutout copies online or on Etsy and bring it to the gym and really help. We have to teach athletes language, the words. So when you oftentimes if you just ask an athlete how they feel, without giving them some examples and some language to choose from, they're probably going to have a very minimal performance vocabulary. It's going to be something like, oh, I feel good or bad or okay or fine. But we don't really know what that means. And so, but we're educating athletes on language so that they can really start to hone in on what is it, how are you feeling exactly, what can we do to help you get there. And just pause me for 1 second. Okay, so this is an example of a routine, a pre-performance routine for a volleyball match that starts at 7 o'clock. So maybe that's a high school match or a college match. I realize for clubs, it's going to look a lot different in a club tournament when you're playing multiple games in a day. On the left, so on the far left, we have the time. And when we're creating a routine, we're always going to start with, when does the match start? That's the thing we cannot control, right? And then we're going to back it up from there by first adding all the physical components. of a pre-performance routine. So remember back to that slide, I had the red box with the physical components, and then we had the blue box with the mental components. First thing we're going to do is we're going to add all the physical components to the routine cues column. So when does the match start? When is the team stepping on the court for warm-up? When are they entering the locker room? What are the things that they're doing as a team together that are sort of set in stone or established by the coach? And then there's things that are individual flexible. And this is where we really want to help our athletes. So it's going to get really customized around how many hours of sleep do you need? Maybe as a team you're eating together, but maybe what you're eating is going to be customized. And then all of the mental preparation is also going to be highly customized, depending on how an athlete wants to feel. So this is just an example of what a routine might look like. And in the far right category, I have what are the emotions, the performance enhancing feelings that the athlete wants to feel. So they don't want to be super fired up and confident and ready to go the night before the match. They don't want to be in it at 10 o'clock in the morning or even 11 or 1 o'clock if the match doesn't start till 7. So again, it's that awareness, that energy management, teaching athletes to be able to peak when they need to peak emotionally and energetically. I also just want to name something I've included on here that's probably pretty easy to miss. But it affects the sleep the night before, and it's also going to affect the mental state the day of. And it's something that I'm sure you've all battled with as coaches, and we always will, is cell phone usage and social media engagement prior to competition. So this is something that is so critical to their mental state. It influences so much. It's going to influence their ability to fall asleep the night before a match. It's going to influence their ability to focus or be distracted throughout the game, and throughout the day, in preparation for the competition. So really helping athletes recognize that that first of all, being on your phone and being on social media is going to impact you in some way. Recognizing how it is. And then I would really encourage you to get athlete buy-in to whatever sort of cell phone policy that you're creating for your routine preparation. You might need to just lay down the law and say at a certain point when you walk into the locker room, cell phones are off, but we really need to get athlete buy-in and helping them recognize that there is an impact of using cell phones mentally and putting that into your preparation routine, that cell phones need to be off at some point, need to be shifting our focus towards preparing for the game. Okay, so I did a lot of talking around the pre-competition routine, and the next 2 slides are we're just going to have 1 slide each on during competition and post-competition. In previous presentations, we have done a lot around during competition routines. So I would, again, encourage you to go back and watch those videos if you haven't already. But during competition routine is going to be, it's because of the pace of volleyball, it is constantly stop, start, right? We have an opportunity to point reset. We have an opportunity, the ball hits the ground, there is time before the next serve. What is the athlete doing during that time? That is critical. That is what I'm looking at as this as a mental performance consultant. When we're focused on the psychology of volleyball, it is so critical that time between serves. So in volleyball, the really key times are going to be preparing to serve. Right, serving is a closed skill, so they have complete control over it. Secondly, preparing to serve receive, and then lastly is how are they reacting to their air or recovering from the air, right? How are they reacting to the previous point and how are they preparing for the next point? So a couple of things that we can do during the game, and another one on here might be timeouts as well. So here's a few examples of things that athletes can do. Cued relaxation. So here in the red box, I have 4 examples of things that athletes can do to incorporate some breath work during competition. either between points or timeouts or in between games. First one is going to be cued relaxation. Cued relaxation is a rapid relaxation technique that can be used during games. In cued relaxation, the goal is really to help athletes identify a cue word that triggers the desired relaxation response. So this is making the assumption that the athlete wants and needs to relax, okay? So it's not going to be for everyone, but when they need to get into a more relaxed state, this is going to be something that can be helpful. So once the athlete gets comfortable achieving a relaxation level of like 8 or more on a 10-point scale, with 10 being completely relaxed, they should start to repeat that cue word in their mind at each exhalation for about 15 or more repetitions. So with practice, athletes can be able to shorten the length of time that it takes for them to relax. But what we're really doing here with cued relaxation is we're combining breath and a cue word to help them achieve relaxation. All right. And it could be with an inhale, it can be with an exhale. It can be something like the one that I like to use with athletes is let go. So inhale, let, exhale, go. Inhale, let, exhale, go. And you're just doing, combining a cue word with a breath to be able to relax. That's one example. Sometimes we need to do the opposite of relax. Sometimes we need to energize the athlete. So if an athlete is really tired, or they're just like sleepy after those club tournaments with long drives and early starts, we need to wake them up, get them going especially for that first match of the tournament. And so then we might want to use a technique called psych up breathing, which is essentially the opposite. All right. We're increasing, doing quick deep breaths to speed up one's heart rate, increase blood flow to muscles and stimulate brain activity. So energization can help athletes improve concentration and their energy level. And so the way we want to do this is called psych up breathing. Is going to be we're going to instruct the athletes to take quick, shallow breaths to inhale as much oxygen as you can in a short period of time. So the breaths are going to be shallower. We're going to take it in with a quick breaths with the lungs. So it's going to be something like that. All right. The last two, box breathing and ratio breathing, I've already covered those in previous sessions, so I'm not gonna walk through those again. I just want to bring those up again. These are all during competition. You can use box breathing and ratio breathing again. Box breathing is going to be 4x4 breathing. Each inhale and exhale is going to be the same length, and then ratio breathing is going to be your exhale is twice as long as your inhale. So we're slowing that breath down. All right, so these are all things that you can do during competition to point reset in between plays or before serving or serve receive. All right, lastly, and this is post-competition routines or post-performance routines, I think are the type of routine that gets dismissed the most, overlooked the most. Post-competition routines take place obviously after the game is finished, after the tournament is over. At this point, most likely athletes are tired, they're hungry, they're either excited or grumpy, and mad or frustrated, all sorts of intense emotions, and usually they want to go on or do the next thing. So implementing a post-competition routine is this is where I face the most resistance. But a post-performance routine is going to include recovery and reflection. Okay, and I love this quote from the former educator, John Dewey. We do not learn from experience. We learn from reflecting on experience. Okay, we can't assume that just because we had a tough loss that the athletes are going to learn the lessons they need to learn from the game. We have to spend time reflecting on what needs to be learned in that game in order for them to be able to learn and actually really adopt it. So that is one thing that is really key to post-competition routines is just spending some time in reflection. And that goes for wins as well as losses. We're not just reflecting on the losses. We need to reflect on the wins too. It's really important that we do both. So we're understanding. So things that we're reflecting on that are really specific to volleyball, they might be key player matchups. Decision-making is a huge one. right? Especially for setters or hitters. The connection with the teammates, the effectiveness of game strategies, all those things, player timing and connectedness, and then just on key plays. Anything that you've been working on in practice that either did or did not work during the game, these are all going to be really important things to reflect on. So self-reflection on performance, regardless of win or loss, is going to be really important. Another thing too is, and this is really important if you have back-to-back games, is what are you doing that evening to prepare for the next day? So if you have a club tournament, for example, that is maybe a 2-day tournament, right? You're going to play Saturday and Sunday. Oftentimes what happens is Saturday night, after playing all day, they have a hard time going to sleep. They're sleeping on the road. They've been super energized from playing, connecting with their teammates. And that's something that might feel hard for them to do. And so incorporating a strategy like progressive muscle relaxation is a really fantastic way for them to be able to decompress, do the body scan, focus on their body, and actually help get their energy level down. And because we're almost at the end here, I'm not going to walk you through the full progressive muscle relaxation technique. But progressive muscle relaxation essentially means that you're going step-by-step process through your body. You're going to flex each major muscle group and then relax each major muscle group right after that. So the goal is that you're achieving total body relaxation. And you can just Google progressive muscle relaxation script, and you'll be able to walk through it. And that's something that is pretty easy to be able to walk yourself through. And lastly, I just want to end with some key takeaways. So key takeaway, again, focusing on routines. They're repetitive and consistent, but they are also, and I just want to put this in a neon sign, they are flexible. Routines are flexible in the face of obstacles, all right? So when things go wrong, when you're on the road, based on the situation or environment changes, they are flexible. Next is identify your individualized zone of optimal performance, all right? Reminding everyone is unique. Let's be respectful and curious about what each individual's needs is and figure out how to incorporate that into team preparation in a way that holds space for everyone's differences. And then lastly, ABC routines. Have a plan for when things go wrong, all right? Yeah. You have the routine for your home games when everything's in your control. You have a B is your routine for your away games, and then C is your routine for everything in between that goes wrong. All right, so those are my three big takeaways. If you want to get connected, this is my website. I have a free workbook with a lot of worksheets, including routine making. You're welcome to do that and go download that. My website is headstrongmindset.com. Here are my resources.